Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the March 16, almost St. Patrick's Day, 2024 County Board meeting. I'm Board Chair Libby Garvey with my colleagues, Vice Chair Takis Karantonis, members Matt DiFerranti, Susan Cunningham, Maureen Coffey. Thank you all for joining us here, both in the room and virtually. There'll be some people using the virtual option here. A few announcements just before we get started. For the in-person speakers, I think we have a few here. That podium height can be, there's a button on your right when you get there. Underneath, can raise it up if you'd like. And if you've got documents you want to submit as part of your testimony, please give them to our clerk, Kendra Jacobs, to my right and your left. And for remote speakers, if we've got some folks online, please make sure your microphones are muted and your cameras are off. And then, of course, when you want to talk, you've got to unmute yourself. If you're on a phone, *6. And if you're online with a computer using it that way, hit the icon that says microphone. Make sure you're unmuted. We have a Spanish language interpreter here for public comment portion of the meeting. I believe is our interpreter here? Yes, buenos dias. Could you introduce yourself in English and Spanish, please?
Good morning, Johanna Marquina, Spanish interpreter. Buenos días, Johanna Marquina, intérprete de español.
Gracias. So occasionally, sometimes we get up and stretch our legs. You may see us do that, but there are speakers in the monitors, so you might not see us, but we can see you and hear what's going on. And we're just about ready to hear from our speakers. As I think most of you probably know, to be fair and consistent, we do have an issue, a rule, kind of one issue per speaker, or one speaker per topic, rather. And that's so we can't have, it's not a public hearing, we can't have a lot of people on the same topic. So we try to get to our regular agenda, and there are other people waiting to do that. So we appreciate everybody's help adhering to the meeting procedures and being fair and respectful of the residents here that are here to speak as well as you are. And if you're here with a coordinated group, it's just fine for you to identify yourself as part of the group. The group can stand up, or people can wave silently like that if they'd like to show that they're here. And there are other ways to talk to the board if you would like to meet with the board. One of the best ways is Open Door Monday, which you can sign up and you can come and talk to us really about anything that you want to. And we have a dynamic conversation that goes back and forth. Often that's a really good way to kind of have some interaction. We don't do as much interaction. So we'll take our public speakers, and when the speakers are concluded, then we will make a few responses to what we have heard. And with that, I think Ms. Jacobs, if you'd like to call the first two public comment speakers.
Yes, our first speaker is Avita Paride, followed by Daniel Jaluski. Avita.
Is Avita here? Paroxide? No? No? Next.
Daniel Jaluski.
Daniel Gajewski? Yes, come on up.
Over the winter, we experienced one of the biggest COVID surges of the pandemic, with the weekly death toll from COVID reaching the thousands. Yesterday marked Long COVID Awareness Day, a day for amplifying the voices of those at high risk and those suffering long-term illness as the result of what is still an ongoing pandemic. Rather than using my own words, I'll be quoting from an editorial I found which does a far better job expressing my thoughts than my own words could, titled, "We ignored AIDS, let's not repeat the mistake on long COVID." Quote, "No, long COVID is not an illness with a certain death sentence, as AIDS was in the early 80s, but those who are sick with long COVID today are facing years of disability. They're trapped in a world of fatigue, chronic pain, brain damage, blood clots, and despair with no approved drugs for treatment, and they need our help. The rest of America isn't seeing the full effects of this because so many people with long COVID are homebound, confined to their beds. For those with long COVID, it feels like they're living in a totally different reality than the rest of the country, they say, one that's largely invisible. Millions have disappeared from their active lives like ghosts, and for the most part, nobody noticed." It has echoes of a 1988 speech by Vito Russo of the AIDS activist group ACT UP. Quote, "Living with AIDS in this country is like living in the Twilight Zone," he said of an indifferent public. "It isn't happening to them. They're walking the streets as though we weren't living through some sort of nightmare," end quote. Yet even wearing a mask is treated like a joke these days, but then so was AIDS in 1982. In order to encourage members of the public to protect each other from the threat of long COVID, I am asking each member of the county board, along with any other community leaders listening, such as healthcare workers and teachers, to lead by example and model care for high-risk members of our community by wearing respirator masks at public gatherings, on public transit, and in buildings such as hospitals and grocery stores. I also happen to have free N95s that I'm willing to give out to anyone interested. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gajewski.
Next speaker is Julie Farnham, followed by Dina.
My name is Julie Farnham. I'm running for County Board. I was on Capitol Hill on January 6, 2021, and I saw firsthand how divided our country is and how fragile our democracy is. That's why I was disheartened and a bit alarmed when members of this board traveled to Richmond in January to lobby against a bill that would give Arlington the option to change its governance structure. This bill did not require changes, but your actions took away the ability for the voters of Arlington, the people of Arlington, to decide for themselves how they would like to be governed. Over and over again, I hear from residents and businesses that they feel like the county board doesn't listen and that they don't have a voice. If this is a government for the people, by the people, and of the people should have a say in how they want to be governed. To be clear, I'm not saying we must change our form of governance in Arlington, but I am saying the voters should be given the opportunity to decide. To deny that right is fundamentally anti-democracy. I'm sure all of you will say that you support democracy, but your actions do not match your words. And this is a slippery slope, and we've seen it happen on the right. Though not to the extremes we've seen on the right yet. Make no mistake, actions like this taken by Democrats also slowly erode our democracy. I'll suspect that you'll respond that this bill has simply been tabled until next year, but it was tabled because you lobbied against it. I hope the bill is revived next year, and I hope that Arlingtonians recognize just how concerning these actions were, and that all of you as board members and arguably community leaders will support, encourage, and lead residents, businesses, and workers alike to have a greater voice in how Arlington is governed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Dina, followed by Rosetta Souza. Josetta Souza.
Hola, mi nombre es Diana.
Hello, my name is Diana.
Siento mucho estar sentimental, pero vengo el día de hoy porque quiero que muchas personas sepan que ahorita mismo estoy siendo desplazada de Parkcraft. Tengo que desalojar el 31 a finales de este mes. No tengo los ingresos ni la manera. Apliqué exactamente con la misma forma que apliqué al inicio. Sin embargo, me pusieron muchas excusas. Y me pusieron muchas excusas y he pedido ayuda a todas partes. Les he pedido que me den tiempo. He llevado todos los papeles con los que apliqué la primera vez que fui. Y me han dicho muchas excusas y he ido muchas veces a la oficina y me han tratado con indiferencia y menospreciado mi presencia cuando llego. He ido 8 veces sin recibir respuesta. Me dicen, vete a casa, nosotros te llamaremos.
Dale un tiempo para que ella pueda introducir. Okay? You want to go ahead and interpret?
My name is Diana, and I am here because I am being evicted. First of all, I want to apologize for feeling very emotional right now, but I am here because I am being evicted. I have turned in all the papers that the office asked me to turn in, and I have gone there and I have not received any answers.
And just to add to that, she said that she gave them the same letter, Barkoff Management, the same letter that she applied with 2 years ago, and that's the same letter she gave to them that they're not accepting now. Just
Okay, thank you. I'm going to respond to people at the very end, but I think perhaps Mr.
Just more
Connolly
time.
could meet with you right out in the lobby, and he could help you. Mr. Connolly's right here. So if she would meet with him out and back, and he will see what we can do to help, okay? Could you tell it? Thank you. Could tell her that? Okay. All right. Gracias.
Puedes seguir
Okay.
todavía.
Me queda todo el tiempo. ¿Puedo seguir? Tengo fecha límite para desalojar el 31 a las 12 p.m. y aún sigo haciendo las cajas para irme, aunque no sé dónde voy a ir. Sin embargo, aquí estoy frente a ustedes con mi hija, creyendo que todavía existe un poco de humanidad para que la gente sepa que yo hice los papeles bien y correctamente y así fue como lo hice y espero.
So, although that I have a eviction notice for March 31st at 2 p.m. and I am making my boxes, I am here asking or hoping for a little of humanity, and I'm here in front of your daughter asking for help because I did everything as I should have done it.
Thank you. Could you explain to her that Mr. Connolly here will meet with her in the back, okay? In the lobby, and we will see what we can do to help.
Our
Thank
next
you.
speaker is Josetta Souza, followed by Amber Gereshi. Josetta Souza.
She's virtual. Do you see her? Online? Okay, we'll go on.
Amber Gereshi.
Good morning. My name is Amber Qureshi. I'm an attorney with the National Immigration Project, and I'm here on behalf of the Free the Mall Virginia Coalition to talk about the Farmville Immigration Detention Center. The Farmville Detention Center has a history of abuse, brutality, and neglect, and is operated by a private prison company. 2 people have died at the detention center because of medical neglect, and countless others have been physically, emotionally, and psychologically abused. I have personally represented many people who have left that detention center with diagnosed PTSD and anxiety because of what they had to endure in this facility. You might be wondering what this detention center that's about 100 miles away from here has to do with Arlington. Well, migrant community members in Arlington often end up at the Farmville Detention Center because of local policies that allow people to be turned over to ICE. If you do not do everything in your power to end voluntary collaboration with ICE, you will be complicit in the abuses of this detention facility. I urge you on behalf of our coalition to do everything you can that is in your power to keep Arlington community members safe from this deadly and horrific detention center. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Charlotte Malridge, followed by Beatrice.
Good morning. I'm here today on behalf of my coworkers and my union siblings in AFSCME Local 3001. The people who fix the streets, find housing for folks without homes, and keep the library books on the shelves. You all have been hearing quite a bit about the budget lately, and we'll hear quite a bit more before the end of the month. And I'm here to remind you that none of the programs or services that Arlington residents value would operate without us, the employees of Arlington County. So our voice needs to be heard on that budget as well. I can't cover everything this morning, but I can tell you one aspect of the manager's proposal that is unacceptable: creating a 2-tiered retirement system. The proposal would deny new employees, anyone who starts from January 1st, 2025 on, inclusion in the pension plan that current employees have, the 457 plan with defined benefits. Instead, new hires would only have a 401 plan that fluctuates with the stock market. This has been described by the manager and county HR as a good thing, a way to attract new employees to the county who don't plan to make a 30-year career here. We know the opposite is true. The current retirement plan, including the pension, is what makes Arlington County attractive as an employer, and we want to incentivize our coworkers to stay with the county. Having coworkers who have spent years developing expertise, knowledge of Arlington, and relationships with the public makes our work more effective. Moreover, looking to the future, we do not want to incentivize layoffs and buyouts of veteran workers, which is exactly what the two-tier system would do. Finally, I just say for myself,
Thank
ICE
you.
out of Arlington.
Thank you, Ms. Malridge. Our next speaker is Beatrice, followed by Bobby Fisher.
Buenos días, mi nombre es Beatriz, soy parte de la colectiva, pero también una miembro de la comunidad en Arlington.
Good morning, my name is Beatrice. I am a member of the Colectiva, but also an Arlington resident.
La razón de estar acá es porque, como saben, tenemos la campaña para sacar a la migra de Arlington y pedir que se termine la colaboración voluntaria entre la policía y la migra.
The reason that I'm here is to make you aware that there is a collaboration between Arlington and the police and to ask for the termination of collaboration between the police and ICE.
Ya que no existen leyes locales, ni federales, ni estatales que respalden esta colaboración, excepto cuando se cruza la frontera y 100 millas dentro. Sí se puede hacer, pero no estamos 100 millas dentro del país.
And there is no law there is no law effective either local, state, or federal that says that this collaboration can exist unless you are at the border 100 miles inland, but we know that we are not 100 miles inland.
Es preocupante cómo estas pólizas pueden criminalizar a nuestras comunidades. Somos parte de Arlington, pagamos impuestos igual que los demás, entonces también necesitamos sentirnos respaldados y escuchados. Por eso estamos exigiendo que se remueva la sección 7 y se acepten los diferentes IDs.
We are part of this community and we see how these policies are affecting us in a negative way. For this reason, we are asking in the trust to remove Section 7 and accept any type of identification.
Como mencionaba la abogada Amber, en Virginia existen centros de detención, entonces Arlington es el conducto para llevar a nuestra gente sea deportada, familias sean separadas y causar trauma en la comunidad.
As Attorney Amber mentioned, there are detention centers here in Virginia, and Arlington is a conduit for members of our community to end up in these centers, therefore separating families, increasing deportations, and causing trauma in our communities.
Ustedes tienen el poder de quitar y remover el poder que tiene la policía de colaborar con migración y también de resguardar a la comunidad.
You have the power to remove these policies and tools that the police have to implement this, and you also have the duty to safeguard us and ensure that we are secure in our community.
Estamos en tiempos difíciles y es cuando la comunidad inmigrante en Arlington necesita sentirse respaldada, escuchada, y ustedes pueden remover la sección 7 y aceptar diferentes IDs.
We are facing difficult times right now, and now is when the immigrant community in Arlington needs to feel saved, regarded, and heard by you by removing Section 7 and accepting any type of IDs.
Pueden hacer la diferencia y no ser parte de este negocio multimillonario a costa de la vida y de la dignidad de miles de personas.
You can be part of a different and not be a participant in this big money machine that is destroying the lives of many migrant families.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Gracias.
Our next speaker is Bobby Fisher, followed by Courtney Massey.
My name is Bobby Fisher. I can't say this is a good morning This has been the third time I have attended this forum on Saturday, getting up early in the morning. I'm a retired woman. I live on a fixed income. I'm a taxpayer. I have a right to be heard. And you will hear from me today, as well as the Republican Party and the media, as to what happened to me and continue to happen to me. I'm hoping that each one of you will get what the clerk has given to you.
Yes, we all have it right here.
Okay. 4 times I have been verbally assaulted in the public library by homeless people, drug addicts, people sleeping at the computer, etc. It's a horror house in a public library. I am calling for Diane Kress to be fired. She is the director of the library. She served me this notice forbidding trespassing in Arlington Library. As you can see, I'm an African American woman. I can't even sleep at night. To be banned from the library, which I have lived here for 18 years, a taxpayer.
Thank you, Ms. Fisher.
Let her speak.
Thank you.
Your time has elapsed. Thank you.
Thank you.
I
Next speaker is
need
Courtney Massey.
help. I will not.
Yeah.
Ms. Fisher, your time has elapsed.
Yeah, thank you. Mr. Connolly here, who's meeting with the other young woman earlier, she can help you and talk to you a little bit about it, and we will look into the situation. Thank you. Next speaker,
Our next
please.
speaker is Courtney Massey, followed by Casey Utley.
Hello.
Good morning.
My name is Courtney Massey. I am here with Showing Up for Racial Justice Northern Virginia and also the Defund Nova Police Coalition, but I'm actually here to speak about affordable housing. I think you've heard from some other constituents earlier that have emphasized the need for what I'm about to say, which is just support for any and all affordable housing initiatives in Arlington that keep communities housed in the face of the gentrification and displacement that development brings. I know that the budget hearing coming up is the place to discuss fiscal concerns, and you will see me again there. But I want to emphasize today that one way you can expand affordable housing is by reducing the police budget and reallocating those funds to initiatives that keep our neighbors housed. Also, you have heard from folks today talking about policies that involve violent policing that harm migrant and Black and brown neighbors. So I think there's a really good reason here why you should reallocate funds from police to initiatives that prevent harm to those neighbors. And also, I just want to say, I agree with the previous speakers about the trust policy, and your one speaker per topic rule is undemocratic garbage. Thanks.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Casey Utley.
Hello, I'm Casey Utley, and I'm speaking with For Us Not Amazon today. Maybe you've heard of us. I'm here because our coalition is deeply concerned about the impact that HQ2 is having on our region. We know that county and state subsidies have been dedicated to bringing Amazon here, and we remain steadfastly opposed to public funds for Amazon. Amazon's presence is already bringing gentrification and displacement, as we've heard today. Amazon is also bringing its surveillance tech into already over-policed communities. For Us Not Amazon agrees with the other speakers this morning, but also wants to emphasize that Amazon's contribution to the incarceration and deportation pipeline cannot be overstated. AWS has contracts with DHS agencies, including ICE, and those agencies imperil many of our community members. Amazon and its tentacles are threatening all of us. Given the board's unflinching support for Amazon, we ask you to take responsibility for the harm you've caused by subsidizing Amazon, and please address the devastating impacts it's having on our community. We demand that you work for us, not Amazon, and get ICE out of Arlington.
Okay, thank you. Is that our final speaker?
Yes.
Right, thank you. Go down. We've had a number of speakers today. First was Mr. Gajewski talking about, excuse me? Oh, the in-person, I don't think so. Did we miss anybody? Is somebody here that signed up? Yes, sir?
Because of the rule that only one person can speak per topic, there was the topic of Save Arlington Independent Media. Since there was one person,
She didn't show up.
And she did not come and speak. Would you like to speak on that topic? Yes, you, come on. That's fine. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. DeFranti, for catching this.
I will speak, but standing next to me are members of Arlington Independent Media who
Would you introduce yourself, sir?
Hi, my name is Alvin Jones. If one would like to Google me, Google the term rap city creator. And if you see that, you'll see that in 2024, after being in media and working with public access since 1982, I'm now an overnight success. And I stand here in support of community media because of the success. Today, at 5 p.m. on Millennium Stage, I'm going to be featured in a program. And in the last 6 months, the world has given me accolades. And whenever I'm doing interviews, be it with Yahoo, Black Enterprise, different types of media, NBC, I talk about public access, how as a student, public access gave me that opportunity. As a matter of fact, I got hired at BT as a producer 2 levels over what my classmates were because of public access. In all that I've been doing, I've been talking about public access. I'm 65 years old, and I'm not retiring, I'm recruiting. You'll see here 2 gentlemen who are just a part of 50 producers with Arlington Independent Media on the radio side, and also what we're doing with journalism. What we're doing is giving voices from different parts of the community. I would ask, with 30 seconds left, please give us some money so we can put our radio station on. Recently, I've been out in LA talking with folks of the music community, especially in hip hop, music, television. They want to support AIM. But until we can get back on the air, the money that they're pledging to me is going to go away, and the money is going to go to someone else. So please, give AIM its money so we can get on the air, so we can continue. I'm 65, and I'm getting ready to get started, and I need your help.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. All right. I think, is that everyone now? We're good?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So Mr. Gajewski was here first to talk to us about long COVID and the issues of long COVID, which certainly are very serious. I neglected in my opening remarks to tell people that they are very welcome to wear masks in here, and I believe we have masks that we can provide to people, Madam Clerk. Yes. And I should have said that, and thank you for the reminder, and I'll make sure that I do that each time. Personally, I do wear a mask when I am under the weather or feeling ill, and I think most people should do that. And I don't know if my colleagues want to say anything more. I'm not prepared to require folks to wear masks at this point, but I think that a lot of us do when we're not feeling well. Does anybody have anything they want to add to that? Okay. And thank you for coming in. And again, I will, and it's a good reminder for me to announce that we do have masks, and if people would like to wear them, that they're certainly welcome to do so. Next, we had Julie Farnham coming in and talking about democracy, and I believe referring to a bill that was in Richmond that did not pass, calling to change our form of government or make that option available. And we have been talking with Patrick Hope, Delegate Hope, about that, and talking with the people from the Civic Federation who support it, and encouraging them and we'll be supporting them in bringing up that topic for discussion with our community during the next year as we're doing Arlington 2050 and looking to the future. We believe it's an important topic that needs to be well discussed. I do think democracy is alive and well here, in part exhibited by everybody that's here this morning. Thank you for being here. And of course, we have elections coming up, both the primary and the general election in November. Any comments more on that? Colleagues, just interrupt me if you've got something to say and I miss you. And then we had Deanna, a young woman coming in talking about being evicted, and I think, Mr. Connolly, you're going to help talk with her outside with a personal issue, and hopefully we can help her with that. Then we had did Josette, excuse me, colleagues, I'm missing that. No, we shouldn't. Okay, Amber was next, I think. The attorney who came in about the Farmville Detention Center, and I'm not super familiar with that detention center and what our authority is there, and certainly intend to look into that. I think some of my colleagues may know more than I do about that.
I can say something.
Mr. Karantonis.
Ms. Qureshi, thank you for coming and speaking up for that. Unfortunately, I know a lot more than I would like to about the Farmville Detention Center. This is a private facility, and it's based on a system that basically uses detention and extreme limitations for people who are in the process of deportation to create a deterrent. Or quote unquote deterrent. This is definitely not something that we endorse or in any way accept as normal. Crossing a border, documented or undocumented, should never be a crime of any sort that would warrant any type of detention or criminal proceedings against a person, much less the type of detention that we know exists in Farmville and has been denounced thousands of times. I was in Charlottesville myself 3 or 4 years ago when the Trump administration was upping these facilities. I know that the current administration, it's a federal matter, the current administration has reduced these across the United States, but still the system persists and performs the way it used to perform, and this is something that we are concerned as well. In anything that we discuss about the trust policy within the limits of the federal laws and the local jurisdictions, we have in mind what happens to people who happen to get, entangled in the system of deportation, and how heavy and consequential this is for them, for their families, and for their communities. We are aware of that.
Thank you, Mr. Karantonis. All right, then we had Charlotte Mellerick, I think, come in and talk about the two-tiered retirement system and some plans in the manager's budget that is coming before us for a work session. Appreciate you coming in and bringing it to our attention. Does anyone right now know which work session that is going to be and when it's coming up? Mr. Schwartz.
It will be covered at the work session where we talk about compensation, and the date is in the first week of April. I don't have it.
Okay, thank you. It is online if people would like to watch that, and we will be looking at and are taking in comments from folks now. Excuse me, what day?
April 2nd.
April 2nd. Okay, April 2nd work session in the afternoon, I believe at 3 o'clock. So we will be discussing that here and appreciate input and are certainly concerned about attracting and retaining our good employees.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Mr. DiFranti.
Just a question. I didn't think it was a requirement. I thought it was an option. I don't know if you know off the top or if that's a...
So, yeah, we'll cover this more at the work session, but I wanted to welcome Charlotte because she and I have talked before. We share the same goal of making sure we have a strong workforce. But since you asked, I did want to take exception to a few of the things she's saying, which actually, she's not representing what my proposal is. My proposal, I actually think, will lead to a stronger workforce. But we can cover that more at the session, but I just want to be clear to people, we are maintaining our pension plan. We are maintaining the mix with also our defined benefit plan in a different way that I think will be attractive to the newer employees in the workforce who want to have more take-home pay. But I know this is not the place to debate that, so I encourage everybody to tune in on April 2nd.
Thank you, Mr. Manager, and thank you, Madam Chair. That if it was a requirement to shift to that system?
Yeah, that's starting on January 1st of 2025, my proposal would require all new employees to take that option. But again, It is a proposal, and it's open to discussion.
Thank you.
We really look forward to this discussion. This started with our discussion about how to, retain or be attractive to new employees, but there is reasonable concern that this hollows out the benefits. And so I understand that we will have a long conversation on this.
Thank you. Thank you for all that information, and stay tuned. Let's see, our next speaker was Beatrice talking about, I think, our ICE policy, and I think, Mr. Carantos, you basically covered some of that, but I know you had been working with our former colleague, Tanya Talento, on making some adjustments to our policy. We basically do need to follow the law, and I don't know if you want to add anything more than that.
That we continue to work, and we hope to bring it to a conclusion in the next couple of months. So we will be in touch. The communities that are affected know that we are in touch. We invite them every time we do a step, and we consult with them to see how they receive. And they shared with us proposals that we digest and work. And so they will be in touch very, very soon on this.
Thank you. Next, we had Bobby Fisher came and talking about some issues she's had with our public library. And I'm not familiar with those particular issues in her case. That's a personal issue, and I will check into that as well, just to see what exactly has been going on. Mr. DiFranti, did you have something you wanted to add? Just very quickly, I know that most Central Library, and I think all of our libraries, we have safety and security personnel. For my part, I both think everybody should feel safe, but I also believe that those who are not housed, if they are not bothering people, absolutely should have a respite in our libraries. I don't know if Mr. Manager had anything to add.
Yes, and I know that's something that we spent a lot of time and effort on. We want to make sure that people are not unnecessarily bothered if they want to try to find refuge in some of our facilities. And without getting too much into the details of Ms. Fisher, what she handed to you was a notice forbidding trespassing, and I think that the county attorney can speak to the fact that it's highly, highly unusual for us to issue such notices, and I will just leave it at that.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I'm aware of that, and I think Ms. Kresh does a lot to make our libraries open and welcoming for absolutely everybody. Thank you. Next, we had Courtney Messy talking about affordable housing and wanting to defund the police. Government is a balance, and we absolutely need to have public security, public safety. We need to have affordable housing, and it's a constant balance to do that, which we will be watching if you watch us in the budget and our budget hearings. Government is a balance between government is a balance between meeting needs. All right, and that brings us to Casey Utley, who was talking about the impact subsidies for Amazon. We didn't make any subsidies for Amazon. Have I got that correct, Mr. Manager? I don't remember.
So the county board entered into, I'm going to get the date wrong, but I think it was in 2019 for an agreement with Amazon. We have paid $0 in incentives to Amazon, zero.
Yeah, $0 to Amazon. And how much has Amazon contributed to the purchase of Barcroft Apartments to preserve that affordable housing?
$150 million.
$150 million. Thank you. All right, and I think that was our last speaker, except for Mr. Jones, talking about AIM, and thank you for coming in to talk about that. We are working with AIM and trying to do our due diligence to make sure that funds are being properly dispersed and properly handled. Mr. Carantonis, again, has been kind of carrying the water the most on that. I don't know if he wants to add anything more on that.
Just briefly, Mr. Jones, thank you for coming and testifying today. Arlington Independent Media is an organization that runs very deep in Arlington. These are 40 years of history and deep and widely branched roots. So hundreds of Arlingtonians have invested very hard work, mostly entirely volunteer work, and they accumulated enormous social capital. This is why we are really, we have supported AIM. Just this year, this board, previous board, and this board have invested have increased the support for AIM by 30% just in 1 year. Yet the organization has managed to run aground financially 3 times in this year alone, 4 times in total in the last 18 months. So you can imagine that we want to get back to a sustainable place, and I think that at AIM, the board of AIM is reacting and is working with us, and we are working with them. We asked AIM very timely to respect the public interest as much as we respect and support their mission, and this is what we did, and we are continue doing. So we wouldn't do all this if we weren't really committed and supportive of the mission of AIM. We do it because we are. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Karantanis. I know you've been working hard with that and really appreciate it. So thank you again, everyone, for coming in. We do have Open Door Mondays that people would like to communicate with us. That way we can have the back and forth, which I think some people desire. Very happy to do that. You can also send us emails. You can write us letters. You can meet with us in person with an appointment. So thank you for coming in. And that brings us, I think, to our consent agenda. Ms. Jacobs, do we have any items that have been pulled?
Yes, we have one item that has been pulled from the consent agenda. That's item number 18, which is a request to authorize advertisement of a public hearing on an ordinance to amend Chapter 14.2 related to speed limits.
Thank you. All right. So when I have a motion for the consent agenda, the consent agenda minus item 18. Have a motion? All right, never mind. I'll move it. I'll move the consent agenda
Second.
minus, thank you. All right, moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, motion passes 5-0. Thank you very much, folks. No, it's all right. We will be holding a public hearing on this one item that's been pulled from the consent agenda at the beginning of our Tuesday, March 19th meeting. That will begin no earlier than 6:30 p.m. And if you want to speak on that item, you can register with the county board's website starting right now today. And you can also give us a call if you don't have access to a computer and would like to speak to that. 703-228-3130 if you'd like to register to speak at the public hearing. All right, so we just voted to approve a number of items, including and I should say consent, it's the consent agenda, we pass it all together, but it doesn't mean that they're not important. It just means that they're not controversial. And of these items, I'd like to just highlight a few that we would go over, and I think we have some slides. There we go. First one, very pleased to be doing this. We have approved an amendment to the Human Rights Ordinance, and that includes source of funds, discrimination as a prohibited act in housing in Arlington, and it allows the Office of Human Rights to investigate complaints. Many Arlingtonians receive subsidized housing assistance, and that can range from housing choice vouchers to housing grants to other subsidized incomes. And this addition of source of funds as a protected class means they cannot be discriminated against because they have income coming from one of these sources and cannot be denied housing based on that income they receive. And we think that will open up housing support for more people, and pleased to have that. We also did some funding to approve Arlington Neighborhood Program, and this is the use of over $3 million in that program, Arlington Neighborhoods Program. And those are bond funds for 4 priority neighborhood projects to make improvements to the Woodstock Park in Waverly Hills and improvements to specific streets and sidewalks in Cherrydale, Arlington Ridge, and Boulevard Manor neighborhoods. And folks that are interested, the Arlington Neighborhood Program, which was formerly called the Neighborhood Conservation Program. This is a great way for residents to collaborate on how to make improvements in their own neighborhoods and then directly come to the county with their ideas. And there's quite an involved process, but if neighborhoods come forward with really good ideas that come through the process, we help fund them through this program and make them happen. We also did some grants. We had the Neighborhood Mini Grant Pilot Project, something we're trying, in a similar vein of really democratic participation in your own neighborhoods. This is called the Neighborhood Mini Grant, a program designed to assist residents, community groups, civic and community-based organizations with engaging residents in their neighborhood in activities that strengthen the community. Applicants will be asked to use the county's equity lens when planning and developing their project or activity, and there is $10,000 in funding available for this pilot, and there will be up to $1,000 for each award. So very small amounts of money to help people build community in their own neighborhoods. This came about as a result of the roundtable that the manager's office had with civic and county and condo association residents and presidents, and it identified the challenges they have in engaging all their residents, especially those living in multifamily buildings. They present different issues, and this should help get more and more people involved in our local government. We also had the Fairfax Falls Church Community Services Board funding, and that's great. We approved and appropriated $750,000 in one-time grant funds from this Community Services Board, and that's to support recruitment and retention in the Regional Adult Mobile Crisis Response Community Regional Crisis Program, known as CR2. And this is a great advance, actually, in our community's mental health response. It's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The CR2 provides crisis response, and it's mobile, goes to where the problems are and where the person is having issues. And this has stabilization services to those experiencing an acute behavioral health crisis, and also with other different issues. And we're hoping that will continue to fill in any gaps that we have in our mental health programs to help people getting through difficult times. And I believe that's the end of the consent items that I wanted to discuss, and brings us to, I think, our first regular hearing item. Would you like to announce that, Madam Clerk?
Yes, item number 2021 is an ordinance to amend the County Code of Arlington County to add a new Chapter 71 authorizing a firearms buyback program.
Thank you. Mr. Manager, over to you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It is my pleasure to hand it over to Deputy Chief Wayne Vincent, who will have a brief presentation.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Can we put the slides up? This is an ordinance, proposed ordinance, to bring Arlington's first firearms buyback program. This would not be the first firearms program in the Commonwealth. In fact, we visited a recent firearms buyback program in the city of Richmond. We sent one of our commanders down to observe and work with the Richmond Police Department to see exactly how they ran this program. This is a collaborative effort. We have one of our partners, Moms Men Action, has joined us here today in ensuring that we make this happen. Next slide, please. The purpose of this, although the police department in my 28 years has always had the ability for community members to hand in unwanted firearms, this purpose actually provides us a mechanism for which our community members in the City of Falls Church in Arlington can actually hand it in. The idea is to make this accessible and to make it where it's easier rather than coming to the police department or calling police officers. Community members can actually drive up and hand in their unwanted firearms for some kind of money. Next slide. The background is that, as I've already said, Moms Men Action brought this in collaboration with the Sheriff's Department, the Police Department, and several other entities to make this happen. I should say that this ordinance is required by state code, that we have to have an ordinance in place to make this happen. For discussion, if need be, again, this will just be for Arlington County residents and the City of Falls Church. I will say that we have seen other jurisdictions where they made it open to the rest of the Commonwealth, and it was honestly too large, too big, shall we say. So I think based upon our location, especially to the district and the DMV area, we recommend that this be, again, just for Arlington County or the City of Falls Church residents. And lastly, if this is approved, we plan on having this firearms buyback program in early summer. I can tell you that we're thinking about probably the first or second week in June. That will depend, of course, if we have further community partnership. One of our concerns, I shouldn't even say concerns, one of our challenges is location. As you know, We want to find a location that can have a big enough parking area that we can actually have, again, people from all parts of the community that can get there, and we can make it a safe environment. And again, as I've said before, the police department, for those that did not know, we've just recently marketed more of this, but if in case anyone wants to hand in a firearm, unwanted firearm, you can still do so at the police department as well. And we will continue giving that service as well. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Do we have any speakers on this issue?
Having a little technical issue here. Hold on one second.
I'm guessing we might. I see some red shirts in the room. It's great to see you all here.
Yes, we do have one speaker, Mr. Peter Evans.
Yeah. Mr. Evans,
Thank you for your patience.
Ready? Good morning. I am Peter Evans, and I'm a resident of Arlington for almost 20 years this year. And I have to say, I hear people complain that the county board is not listening, not responsive. I feel very differently because it was only a year ago that the discussions, as far as I'm aware, started about the need for an ordinance and the need to work with the police department, the county. And here we are, ready to make something happen and give it a try. I am proud to be a volunteer with Moms Demand Action, also with Giffords and with Brady. But the comments I'm providing today are solely my own and don't necessarily represent the views of any of those organizations. Unfortunately, the statistics that we've been able to get from the police department show that while the crime rate in the gun crime rate in Arlington is relatively low, it has been increasing and steadily over the last 5 years. In addition, we have to live in today's world recognizing that the same horrible tragedies that have happened in so many other fine communities could also happen here. And if that should ever happen, we will want to look back and to know that we have done as much as we possibly can to remove unneeded guns from our community. So I support the proposed ordinance, and I guess if you would permit me, I would suggest one amendment to your proposed ordinance, and that is that you delete the reference to cash as one of the incentives that might be provided in the exchange for unneeded firearms. I appreciate the opportunity to come in today, and I appreciate the fact that you guys always come in on Saturday morning to take care of the public business. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Evans, and thank you for your persistence and work with us. And Moms Demand Action, always glad to see you guys. Thank you. All right, I think if that's our only speaker, right? Yes. Okay. Why don't we get a motion on the table, and I'll call on Mr. Carantonis, who's really been carrying the water on this one for us, and then you can speak to it. I don't see if there's anything you would like to do with Mr. Evans' suggestion. But why don't you go ahead and make a motion?
Thank you, Madam Chair. By far not the only one who carried the water here. This is the kind of water that needs to be carried by an entire community. This is the kind of water that needs to be carried by an entire community, like everything that has to do with anything that pushes back on the gun violence epidemic that we're experiencing in our country. So this is my motion, the county manager's recommendations to adopt the proposed ordinance to amend the code of Arlington County, Virginia, to add a new chapter 71 authorizing a firearms buyback program that is in attachment 1 to this item. That's my motion.
Okay, and I'm going to be pleased to second that motion. Thank you. All right, moved and seconded. Would you like to speak to your motion?
Briefly, Madam Chair, and thank you for seconding the motion. Last summer, Mr. Evans, you came here to testify not once, not twice, not thrice, countless times indeed. And you reached out to board members, to members of our safety, to police, to everybody involved. The Moms Demand Action, Giffords and Brady have done a lot of legwork for that, whether it was here in Arlington or in Richmond or everywhere in Virginia and in the nation. And I think that this is a first step forward in what you, Mr. Evans, called a new culture of safety. We continuously insisted that it's not enough just to take a position against gun violence. You repeatedly said that we need a new culture, and this is part of that. Gun buyback programs are a hot topic among academics, even among some politicians, even among allies. The question is always whether they are effective in reducing gun crime and violence. Many localities in Virginia, I mean, it's not only Richmond that was mentioned before, but Portsmouth, Suffolk, Roanoke, we looked at many, even the town of Dumfries, just down I-95, they have now ordinances that are paving the way for a bigger array of actions that allow us to mitigate that epidemic, really, that is gun violence. On a personal note, I have to tell you, gun violence has become so ubiquitous that touches so many more people than we even imagine. A few years ago, the son of a very good colleague of mine, bright guy, smart, 22 years old, embracing a really, impeccable future, he took his life with a gun of his father. The gun was safely stored. The ammunition was stored separately. Yet he accomplished to take his life, and everything else wasn't enough to avert this tragedy. So when I vote for that, and when I work for that, it's also because I've seen that from very close. And I know, and I have to thank you, I have to thank my colleague, Mr. De Ferranti, for his indefatigable and laser focus to get things done, as always, for bringing that forward here. We will see how well it works. We heard that in Richmond it worked. We will try to make it as a community to work. Our goal is far bigger than that, of course, and this is an ongoing struggle. Thank you so much for your work on this.
Thank you. And I think we just got set up with an introduction for Mr. DeFranti to make remarks. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First, with respect to the cash point that you made, I'm not sure that I agree with it. I don't know if I could ask the Deputy Chief if there's any thoughts, because there are households that have limited income but could use the income. I don't know if you have thoughts.
Yes, sir, that is correct. It should be a gift card, not cash. Gift cards should be in different denominations based on the type of weapon that is actually surrendered.
So in that case, there is the word cash is in there. Is there a?
Can I just interject?
Yeah.
So this is an ordinance that just enables you to do a program.
Okay.
You don't have to accept cash. That's something that happens when you design the program. It's just an option. It just was created this way to give the board maximum flexibility.
Thank you. Thank you for that clarification. I'm flexible. If there's flexibility in implementation, that means leaving cash in there is best. I don't need to make amendments just to make amendments for the sake of it. I'm going to align with Mr. Karantonis, and so I'm going to leave that be. But, there's work to implement this, as you guys have already been working on. A couple of other thoughts. I think it's important to state, honestly, that the gun buybacks, the evidence is not that they are the most important steps that we can take, but they are a step. And keeping people safe is about as important as anything I ever do. And we have to change this. It is urgent. And so I understand that for some, your identity has a reading of the Second Amendment that I thoroughly disagree with. I understand that. I also am going to be doing everything I can to do my job to try to keep as many people of us safe as possible. That means electing Democratic majorities until some in the Republican Party stand up and say this is reasonable. That means in Virginia. That certainly means in Congress, in 2 swing places nearby. And that also means in the presidency, because it's breathtaking, the stakes that are there. And, I kind of am sorry I'm not sorry for talking about those issues, because I do want to get things done on this. There's a bunch of bills that have been sent to the governor, and there's no logic that says don't sign those bills. And so, I won't, with the 3-month-old, I don't make all your meetings, and I probably won't make many of them. But you need to know that every time I'm trying to elect majorities, that is why, because I see this as part of my job as a county board member. So huge thanks to you guys for being persistent and focused, to every one of you, and to Mr. Carantonis. And I am thrilled that we're taking this step.
Thank you, Mr. DiFranti. Ms. Coffey?
Thank you. I'm so happy to be able to support this additional ordinance. I think one thing I've heard consistently across the community is a concern about gun violence and safety. And at the same time, a lot of people being like, but what can the county do? I think we're all very conscious of the limitations that local government face here. And so to have something in front of us that is a concrete, tangible step, especially knowing a lot of the research and the evidence behind firearm-related injuries and deaths, that so much is that availability of a weapon, right? That split-second choice that if it's there, it's easy. To be able to just create that distance, create that step that if you really want to go find a firearm, you can go do that. You can go through the process. You can take a conscious choice. But now it's not subconscious. If it's not there, you have to take more steps. And building that into our process, I think, is going to be beneficial for everyone. And we know that more than half of all gun-related deaths are suicides. To just not have it in the home, whether it's for yourself or for others in your household that may not even be the owner or the possessor of that firearm. It's so important. It's so important. It can't be understated. And I think, the next step is really the publicizing and making sure that people know this is available and making sure that we have as many people participating as possible. And so I look forward to working with our county staff, but also our advocates to make sure that this is not just a box that we've checked, but something that is a really active part of our strategy to combat gun violence in Arlington.
Thank you. Ms. Cunningham, did you want to make any statement? No, thank you. All right. I do have a few questions. I'd actually like to invite Deputy Chief Vincent to talk about other gun safety programs that we have, because I think we do have some, and it's just good to kind of get them out there and talk about them a little bit if you'd like to talk about them.
Madam
Thank
Chair,
you.
which ones were you speaking of?
Excuse me?
Which ones were you speaking of specifically?
I'd like you to just kind of list what we do, and several of them, because all of them, if you can, unless it's going to take way too long, but I think you can probably do it.
Well, it's probably best just to mention first that we have seen in the last 3 years an increase of firearms that police are coming into contact with. I think that we are seeing, based upon the incredible work of our officers, particularly in patrol, who are making arrests of those who should not be in possession of firearms. We're seeing just an increase in that in the last 3 years. And even if I count the numbers where we're finding people who are legally carrying firearms, those numbers are up as well. As I've said previously, we continue to offer our community members the ability to hand in firearms whenever they want. We'll even come to their house, although we prefer they come to the station, to hand in those firearms.
And if people want to know more about gun safety, how to properly store, how to handle a gun, what should they do?
They should actually contact my division specifically, the Community Engagement Division. We're more than happy, and we are asked frequently to give presentations on gun violence, or prevention strategies within the county on safety. We also partner with some of our federal partners like the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms to give presentations as well. I just recently partnered with CIFA to do a presentation with ATF to our youth. And of course, we're also still working with our partners in APS, Arlington Public Schools, to teach to our youth. Also at some of our other partners as far as our Arlington Housing Authority, things like that, where we're talking to people in the community, particularly our youth, about guns and the safety of it, how to store them and how to take care of them.
Thank you. Excellent. And then we need to keep talking about this and getting the word out. And I'd like to ask our attorney, because she said, this is enabling. Can you talk a little bit about what comes next?
This ordinance enables the county manager to create a program So it basically, the legal part is done, and now it's up to the county manager and his staff to create and design the program. I believe the intent right now is to partner with Moms Demand Action to create some sort of gift card or exchange system where guns can be exchanged for a voucher from the police and then exchanged for a gift card with moms. But we created the ordinance with a lot of flexibility because the state gives us a lot of flexibility. And the details are really up to the manager to create and implement.
Great. And with that, I'll turn to the manager to talk about your plans.
Well, before I do that, Deputy Chief Vincent did want to add one other program that we didn't mention.
I also should have mentioned, too, that the police department partners with our Department of Human Services and their prevention office and the Child and Family Services Division to give free cable and trigger locks for firearms. So you can always call DHS and request one. They're always out doing various programs where they're giving them out. And also, if you need one, you can also call, again, my division, the Community Engagement Division, and we will ensure that people can get a trigger lock if they want one.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you. Mr. Schwartz.
Yeah, I think your question is what are our immediate plans? I think Deputy Chief Vincent talked about, and I think we're aiming for June. We're looking for a location. And we already have, I think, some parties are interested in donating the gift cards. We'll have our police department out there. We have scheduled we'll have some police staff out there. You want to talk a little bit about how that's going to work? That will be our first step. And it won't be the only time we'll do it, but at least it's a kickoff.
Yeah.
Yes, Madam Chair, as I've said before, this will be a partnership. So it'll not only be the police department, the sheriff's department, but also be volunteers from from our community as well as Mom Demand Action. This is a collaborative effort. We want to create a safe gun buyback program, but also one that's welcoming where people won't feel intimidated that they're not going to hand their firearms in if they want to get rid of them.
Great.
I want to add also that this will be, although it's a voluntary program, the police department is going to test every gun. We think that that's important that we test every gun. They'll be tested by our state police department. State police will be doing the testing, and then the police department will destroy all guns that are handled and confiscated in the same manner that we do so with all weapons that we collect now.
Thank you. Thank you for that. All right. Thank you all, Moms Demand Action. Would you like to? Sure. Yeah, I shouldn't, but come on up. We'll make it for the testimony. Come on up. You got 3 minutes. Go ahead. What? Push the button to make it. There's a button to make it go on the speaker. You got it. That's it. Stop.
Okay.
Yep.
I just wanted to call attention to the fact that this week, the Arlington County School Board passed a resolution requiring the superintendent to notify all families in a proactive manner at the beginning of every school year about parents' obligations to store guns safely under Virginia law, and to keep the website updated with safe storage information. So we consider that another part of our building a safer community.
Thank you. Thank you so very much. Thank you for letting us know that. No, I think, this whole gun thing, I wish I were on the Supreme Court. I'd talk about a well-regulated militia and how none of these people have guns that are in a well-regulated militia. At any rate, I'm not. And it's really hard to kind of make these steps, but we keep persisting, and I want to thank everyone for doing that. Mr. Evans for coming, Moms Demand Action, thank you for all you do. And I really want to recognize Deputy Chief Vincent, who I think has really been spearheading this with our police, and really recognize our police department that's been working on this. So take that back to Chief Penn and everybody, please.
I certainly will. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Making the community safer is what this is all about. So thank you so very much. With that, I think we're ready to vote. All right. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you so very much. Thank you. It's a small step, but it's a step. Thank you. All right. Madam Clerk, would you call the next item, please?
Item number 22 is a resolution authorizing a bona fide offer to purchase the land and improvements at 1802 Columbia Pike. Also approving an agreement of sale to be sent with bona fide offer, authorizing the county manager to execute the agreement on behalf of the county, and authorizing the acquisition for public purposes and by eminent domain if the purchase of the property is ineffectual.
Thank you. Mr. Manager, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Joining me here to make the presentation is Maxine Chumley, along with Wei Huang, and I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Chumley, I think, to start the, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Huang to start the presentation.
The computers have decided it's a beautiful Saturday and they should all be outside. Oh. There we go. Ms. Chumley.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, board members. Thank you for hearing this item. This is about 1802 Columbia Pike, a property that we are seeking your support on procuring that and to support the Columbia Pike project. To give a little bit background to everyone, I want to start with the project map of Columbia Pike. As you can see, this is a very long transit premium network corridor. And the entire project has been divided into pieces to be constructed. Today, the attention is on segment C, which is, you can see it going from the Courthouse Road all the way to Queen Street, which is the interchange with Washington Boulevard. Next slide, please. Okay. The originally planned intersection of Columbia Pike and Rolfe Street, as you can see, show on the map. Rolfe Street is what we call a offset design, meaning the southbound and northbound legs are not directly connecting together with a distance. Currently, they are minor street stop controlled. This configuration that we show on the map with signal was approved by the county board in November of 2022. The turning traffic volumes support the construction of a new traffic signal. This signal will make it easier and safer for drivers to turn onto Columbia Pike from Rolfe Street. And I have to point out the northbound, which is the south leg of Rolfe Street, is one of the only two exits that's coming out from Arlington View community, which is a community that has been boxed in by many major highways. And the safe and efficient exit has always been a problem for them. The traffic signal will also allow us to reinstate a crosswalk at the intersection along with a pedestrian signal. When we're talking about reinstate a crosswalk, that indicates it had been removed in the past. The reason it was removed was because of safety concerns. When we put in crosswalks, we put them where we think, at least from engineering point of view, people can safely make a cross. When we feel like that's at risk, we would rather remove the crosswalk, not to lead people into a risky situation. Next slide, please. The proposed realigned intersection layout is shown on this slide. Realigning the intersection into a four-leg intersection, also called as normalizing the intersection, creates the opportunity for other safety and traffic benefits. First one is the two Rolfe Street legs can move at the same time because now the offset has been removed, eliminating the entire signal phase of letting one leg go at one time. This would also reduce the length of the total signal cycle. And because the signal cycle is shorter, everyone, that includes drivers, pedestrians, and cyclists, they wait less time for a green light. This also means we can install a crosswalk and a pedestrian signal on both sides of Rolfe Street, instead of only one on the east side, as the previous slide has shown. Next, please.
Posted and closed. It closed on the 14th.
Oh,
it already closed.
Somebody's got their mic on who shouldn't. Thank you. Ms. Wong. Are you done? Pardon me? I was just checking, go ahead.
Okay. I'm Maxine Chomley with, sorry.
No, that's okay. Here we go.
Good morning. I'm Maxine Chomley with the Real Estate Bureau. And in order to construct this realigned intersection, the county will have to purchase this property or acquire this property. The property has been vacant since January of 2021 when there was a gas leak there. The occupants, one occupant of the house is currently in a nursing home. She is disabled, and one of the other persons passed away. The house is currently not in a habitable condition, and we have been in touch with the conservator guardian for the surviving sister since since late 2022, and we actively started talking with her in January of 23 about acquiring the property. We've had several discussions with the conservator guardian over the last year. The discussions have not been successful. We've not been able to come to an agreement. Therefore, in order to acquire the property, the county board would need to adopt a resolution. The resolution would authorize the sending of a bona fide offer and an agreement of sale to the conservator guardian for the owner. If the offer is accepted, the resolution would authorize the county manager to execute the agreement of sale and proceed to settlement and conclude the purchase of the property. If the offer is not accepted, the resolution would authorize the county attorney to acquire the property by eminent domain.
Thank you. Is that everything? Do you have
One
any
more.
questions? One more? Mhm.
So the considerations that we're bringing to you today is the construction of Columbia Pike Segment C has already begun. That started on Monday, March 11th, and is expected to be completed by 2025. Through this purchase, the county will be able to provide the community an aligned intersection with a traffic signal. This will improve access for the adjacent neighborhoods, provide safe connectivity for people walking and biking, and reduce time spent waiting at the traffic signal for all roadway users. I will say with action on time, we should be able to make up the time and still be able to complete the projects as originally planned.
Thank you. That's it. All right. Thank you very much. I don't think we have any commissioners. Do we have any speakers, Madam Clerk?
No, we do not have any speakers.
We do not. Okay, thank you. Mr. DeFranti, I think I'll turn to you for a motion, and then we'll have discussion.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move the board adopt the county manager's recommendation, namely to adopt the resolution attached to the board report dated March 11, 2014, to authorize a bona fide offer to purchase the land at 1802 Columbia Pike, approve an agreement of sale to be sent along with a bona fide offer, authorize the county manager to execute the agreement of sale on behalf of the county board, and authorize the county attorney to take all necessary actions to acquire the property by eminent domain if such efforts to purchase the property are unsuccessful.
Is there a second? Is there a second?
Yes.
There's a second part to
All
the
right.
motion.
Oh, thank you. Let me.
All right, there's a second to that first part, but keep going and we'll second it again.
Yes, exactly.
All right.
I further move that the board allocate $627,000 from the TCF Commercial and Industrial Tax Fund for funding the acquisition of the property.
All right, we done?
Yes.
All right, another second?
I second that.
Excellent, thank you. Mr. Carantonis seconds it. All right, motion has been properly if interestingly, moved and seconded. Mr. DiFranti, would you like to speak to your motion?
Thank you, Ms. Kaur, for catching that. I apologize, colleagues. This is not an easy issue, but it is the sustained efforts to work with the property owner and the importance of transportation into this neighborhood ultimately is what leads me to make the motion. The only that we are weighing the necessity of competing the public good of an accessible exit and entrance to the Arlington View community. And I have engaged previously, and I know access to Arlington View is a huge challenge. The only other light results in pretty regular long waits to get out of and into that neighborhood. So that is what leads me to make the motion.
Thank you. Colleagues, any questions, comments? Ms. Cunningham?
I have a couple. One is regarding the bus stop relocation. We've heard from the Lancaster Condominium Association. Can you share more detail there?
Yes. The current design, the bus stop is not in front of Lancaster. It's further away towards west. Arlington View community has long asked us to consider moving the bus stop closer to Rolfe Street, allow easier access, more convenient access. And we've been trying that. The original intersection design with the offset legs make it impossible because the street corner of the South Rolfe Street would be right in the middle of a operating signal intersection. Because of that, that's not even a possibility. With the realignment, it does have that possibility. However, we do understand in order to move that transit station over, it will require additional easement and it will get closer to the Lancaster property. And we have been in negotiation with them. We understand their concerns. Actually, Sheila here, she has been sort of doing a lot of those engagements. I'll let you provide additional information if you have any. So these are two independent items. Realigning the signal, the intersection will give us all the benefit we just talked about. There could be another benefit, but that one we have not really settled with the property.
And so it's safe to say we'll have further discussion about that relocation should it be proposed, and community members will have a chance to say more.
Correct. If the property owners eventually agrees with the project, it will sort of adding yet another cherry on the cone, but that is not of concern of today's move.
Great. And I understand we've been in discussions for over a year to try to come to conclusion here. Can you say a little bit more about what would happen if we continued to wait on those discussions to have additional length to them? What would happen to the project schedule and continued construction on the Pike?
Yeah. I think everyone here, we're fully aware that Columbia Pike has gone through construction, and if you ask people who live there, they will say it's too long. So staff is also very eager to actually get these constructions over so people can start enjoy the new Pike sooner. If we continue to consider these options, then we will miss the window of making a design change and construction change order without affecting the schedule. The schedule delay could not only, further inconvenience the Pike neighborhood and residents, it could also raise the price because every day it passes, there's inflation, there's unpredictable cost increase, and so I would just say the risk of keep thinking about this is fairly high.
Great. And then likewise, it may have been in your presentation, but I didn't catch it. Could you highlight the change in traffic flow and delay that comparing the two options?
Yes. The current street layout was the offset, meaning during one signal, you won't be able to let both legs, for example, turning left at the same time, what we call a concurrent phase, because they would be head-on into each other at some point. And because of that, we will do what's called a split phase operation, one leg go at one time. This is actually, we encounter that at many other locations. Of course, historically, the road network was built that way. So every time when there's an opportunity to realign the intersection, make the operation more efficient, we try to, explore that opportunity. Now with the realignment, the north and south leg can move at the same time. It eliminates that split phase that would give, the traffic engineer will tell you, 20 seconds or 15 seconds. That may not register in our mind, but what really can give you sort of a sense of what that means is there could be 4 or 5 or even more vehicles that be able to make it without have to wait for another turn. I also understand the argument of, well, that is all for cars, for traffic, right? What about pedestrian and other? With a realigned intersection, it will give a more normal both-side crossing because it's more predictable. When you have the split phase operation, pedestrians don't know which way, which direction the car gonna come towards them. And the cars, with that offset, the cars may be able to pick up more speed. So by the time they're facing the crosswalk, they could be too fast to slow down or to stop, effectively. So the pedestrian benefit on the realigned design is not to be ignored. It's very significant.
Great, thank you. I'll hold my other questions. I see some other lights.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay. Ms. Coffey.
Thank you. Okay, I think you mentioned that the state of the home, it's currently uninhabitable. Can you say a little bit more about the physical state of this property?
Yes. Thank you. So the interior, the walls are in very poor condition. There's no working bathroom. There's no working kitchen. And
The mic.
oh, I'm sorry. Yes, the interior of the house is in very poor condition. The walls are in very poor condition. There's no working bathroom. There's no working kitchen. So it's basically a gut rehab. You'd have to take it down to the studs.
Okay, thank you. And kind of relatedly, how did we come to the value of the offer that we're making to the property owners?
So, excuse me, the county has had 2 appraisals done on this property, but the statute requires that when we make the bona fide offer, it's either the higher of the appraised value or the tax assessed value. And actually, the tax assessed value for 2023 is higher than the 2 appraisals that we got.
Okay, so when the appraisers physically were on premises,
Yes.
they
Went
found
inside. Yes,
Okay.
they toured the property, they took pictures, they went into the basement, they went through the entire property.
Okay, and so based on what they physically
Yes.
saw, it is their valuation is lower than what the county is assessing just based on the qualitative factors or quantitative factors, I guess, that we take into account. Okay, thank you. And then my colleague asked this, but I just want to put a finer point on it. The move of the bus stop is not inherent in the design of the street alignment, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. And then last thing on the Lancaster apartments that the association raised is the distance between the stoplight and their driveway. And I don't know if this is the appropriate phase to be asking this, but is it possible to include pavement markings or other ways of ensuring that the driveway itself is not blocked as traffic lines up at that light?
So both designs, the stop bar is very close to the driveway. So in that sense, these two designs are not significantly different. Yes, when a driveway is very close to an intersection, it does create additional challenge for their movement. The rear line design actually gives more room for them to negotiate. I think in the board report, there is an exhibit of side by side, and you can see the star bar is actually slightly away from the driveway in the rear line design.
Yeah, that's actually, I hadn't looked at it that way. I'm looking at slide 8 now, and that definitely appears true from the designs. I think those are all of my questions for the time being.
Thank you. Mr. Karantonis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a general question about the process from here on. So if we approve today's, if we approve the motion, what happens next? Is that something that the owner of the house, the conservator, can still negotiate and will be, is that a, this is not yet eminent domain. This is a introduction of the process, right?
So the resolution would allow the bona fide offer to go out at the figure that's provided in the agreement of sale. If the conservator wished to negotiate, of course, we would discuss the price with her. But if we're not able to come to an agreement, then the resolution authorizes the county attorney to move forward with eminent domain. So we can continue to negotiate even up to eminent domain being filed or even while that's going on. The county attorney may wish to speak a little bit more on that.
Okay. Thank you. It helps me.
I think Ms. Kaur, do you have something you wanted to add? Is that okay?
Sure.
Yeah.
So the process we take is what's called a quick take. We'd file a certificate of take, and that doesn't go to the value. That just goes to the fact that there's a public purpose here and we can take the property. We would continue to negotiate with the property owner. What the statute requires us to pay is fair market value, and we just need a tangible amount that's supported by some sort of documentation. We have told the property owner, if she wants to submit her own appraisal, we'd be happy to look at it. And that remains true even after the certificate of take, because the property valuation is always up for debate, and we want to pay fair market value. We just need to figure out what that is. And as far as we know, based on our documentation, what we're offering is fair market value considering the condition of the property.
Thank you.
Thank you. An additional question, it has to do with the involvement of the neighborhoods, et cetera. This is one of the most challenged parts of Columbia Pike. There is between Courthouse and actually Washington Boulevard, there is exactly one pedestrian crossing. If I'm not wrong, it's about 2,500 households around that, on that stretch. And this is one crossing that had to be fought for. It's in front of St. John's Church, and it has a light, and even that had to be fought for. So this community as a whole, four neighborhoods actually, if we count Foxcroft Heights onto this, they have to fight for the privilege of crossing Columbia Pike safely for a very long time. So the multimodal project, how many more pedestrian crossings is introducing in this stretch?
By introducing the signal, which is, I think that's the most important improvement. It will allow us to, the original design, reinstate one crossing. And now if we go with the realigned, it will have two crossing with signal control, with pedestrian signal. I think that is considered a safe crossing. Yes, staff has attempted of adding crosswalks near the Arlington View neighborhood. I can recall one attempt of adding that to the Quincy, Washington ramp, that, multi-leg intersection. That attempt, actually, that design didn't pass the VDOT approval because of the challenges of very complicated traffic and a very wide walking distance, et cetera. So staff actually feel very good about being able to signalize this intersection to provide that safe crossing accessibility. People may not recognize every time we talk about signal, we immediately think about cars. No, signal is also a very safe way for pedestrians to cross.
Exactly. And I am also aware that there are significant school bus stops there, very close by, and a lot of kids have to cross Columbia Pike every day to board their school bus on the other side of the street. And I wonder if I know that part of the community's focus on that has to do with that as well. So thank you for clarifying.
Okay. Ms. Cunningham, did you have further questions? I think you did. You got it.
I did. I was curious, I know the family is a longtime owner of this property, and I wonder if we have, or if we will be able to, in the continued conversation, offer any historic interpretation or marker or other support to honor the family's history on the site.
I can speak a little to that. We have made that offer. We've brought that up as a possibility for further negotiation when we've contacted the conservator.
Great. Thank you very much. I think that's all I need.
Okay. All right. Any more questions? Mr. DeFranti, your light's on? It's okay? All right. I think we're ready. I have a few things I wanted to say. I don't have any questions. Are there any? Looks like everybody's pretty much done. So this has been really hard for me, as people know. And I've been thinking about systemic racism. So this community was founded, as my understanding, Freedman's Village was where the Pentagon is, thriving black community. They decided they wanted to build the Pentagon, and they just got kicked out. A whole community of people that were thriving. So many of them came to Arlington View, black community. And then when we're going to put in a golf course, you put it all against the community, so you can't go in and out on one side. And then you're going to build 395 and you put in an exit ramp. And that's more systemic racism, if you will. The same community, they get kind of push them off where they're doing, then you box everybody in. And that kind of collides with what we have here, which is a family, a black family that's been there for, 100 years. I think it's been a while. And they want to keep their property. And it's been a really hard, and I was just thinking that systemic racism puts us in this really bad place where there kind of are no good decisions. I have been talking with folks in that community, I think as we all have, and they so want this safer crossing, and it will benefit a lot of people. So I will vote for this motion. I just want to recognize the hard spot it puts us all in, and it's not necessarily right. It's like two injustices, and we got to balance out which one, where we're going to go. We got to make the decision. And looking forward and considering about the safety of all the people who will be living there, the fact that there's no one living in the house right now or in the area that would want to be living in it, most likely. I'm going to support this, but I just want to recognize this has been a hard decision for all of us, and we've been thinking about it really long and hard. But I think it's the right thing to do for the community there and for safety just in general for the community and at large as well. So I'm going to support it. With that, are we ready to vote? All right. All in favor of the motion before us, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion passes 5-0. Thank you all very much. Appreciate it. Madam Clerk, is there anything else to come before the board today?
No, there is not.
All right, thank you. With that, we are in recess today, and we will be back here on Tuesday at 3 o'clock. Have a good weekend. Yeah, thank you.